everyone, welcome back to Yulan's channel. Today we'll be continuing our AP Psychology journey, and today we'll be talking about, we'll have a basic introduction of learning. And if you haven't watched my previous videos on the overview of learning, which is like overview of Unit 4 AP Psych, please do watch that video because that's like the basic overview of what we're gonna talk about in this unit. And also my previous videos on the Unit 1, 2, 3 is also really helpful in having like understanding of psychology in general. So please do watch all my previous videos, and I swear to God, it will be really helpful. Okay, so let's begin to our introduction to learning today. In the field of learning, there are a lot of people who make great processes in discovering new things about how we learn. Here are some of the most prominent names and the name of the field of learning they were associated with. They're the ones that you might encounter on the AP exam. Just remember, like, you don't need to memorize everything, but definitely have a general idea of who belongs in which learning category is really important. So first we have Ivan Pavlov. He was in the classical conditioning and the salivation of dogs. And then John Watson, also classical conditioning. Edward Thorndike, operant conditioning. Albert Bandura, observational learning, or like imitation, you know. Edward Tolman is Latin learning, and Wolfgang Kohler, insight learning. And B.F. Skinner is also part of like the key figure in the operant conditioning. So from the name, from this slide, you can see there's like three main types: classical, operant, and observational. So though they share some things in common and do impact the occurrence of the other two types, each type of learning has defining features. So first, classical conditioning describes the process in which the environment presents an organism with a stimulus, which causes the organism to react in a certain way. The stimulus causes a response. Responses in classical conditioning are involuntary or reflexive. For example, when a puff of air is blown into one eye, which is the stimulus, the person blinks. And then we have operant conditioning, begins with the organism performing a voluntary behavior such as non-reflexive, which leads to the environment reacting a certain way, and this provides a consequence which could be pleasant or unpleasant. This consequences, in turn, influences the likelihood of the organism performing the task again. For example, when the student completed his homework, he received $1 from his parents. This led him to do his homework more often. Our third type is observational learning. As the name suggests, it's learning by observing. Put another way, when a person sees another person doing that behavior, the one who is watching might try to imitate the behavior and mimic him. One could model voluntary or involuntary, reflexive behavior to another. For example, when the student saw his friend say a certain catchphrase over the course of several weeks, she found herself saying the same phrase. And this happened to me as well. So this photo from the website Fiveable, like kind of did a good job in summarizing like introduction to learning and the three types and some of the key figures and key terms in each of the type of learning. So you may want to pause the video and take a look at that. Yeah, so we'll talk about all the stimulus, reinforcement, punishment modeling in our next few videos about learning. While learning is going on, a lot of phenomena can happen. By conditioning, either accidental or intentional, these learning phenomena can happen in everyday life. The first one is learned helplessness, which is the feeling of futility resulting from the inability to avoid repeated events. And this is part of operant conditioning. And then we have taste aversion, dislike of certain food due to association with painful stimulus from the past. This is part of classical conditioning. And then we have superstitious behavior, and it's a partial reinforcement schedule developing a superstition. And this is part of operant conditioning. A certain behavior doesn't yield a desired consequence. One can feel helpless in being able to control consequences. This, in a sense, is learned through operant conditioning. This is similar related to superstitious behavior, often unintentional. If a certain behavior yields a certain consequence, one will believe that the behavior caused the consequences, as we always say. Correlation does not mean causation, which is part of our first unit, and we talk about different types of research methods. Taste aversion is more classical conditioning. If someone has a strong aversion to something, it's most likely they have bad memories associated with it, such as a bad stomach ache. So here's our last section of today's video, biological constraints. We do have some biological constraints to learning. The two prominent ones are preparedness and instinctive drift. Preparedness means that animals are biologically more likely to learn behaviors helpful to survival. Instinctive drift means that the conditioned behavior may drift back towards the natural and instinctive behavior of the animal. So that's the end of our video today. Thank you for watching, and also please subscribe to my channel and like this video if you enjoy the content. And I will try to produce more high quality videos in the future, and please update it for that. Thank you.